당은 기본이나 투모에 남녀림바 남자셔봐들라 당은 거기 동안 삼바들라 고알리 탈되게 삼바게 내내 고알이 니보메바 토네 딜레 탈비 탈바스 토고도 선빙의 중에 삼바게 봐라 하는 거기 교인에게 통고월에 지난달 거기 교인 하고 봐라 지난달 거기 교인의 양도 되는데 여러 사정을 두고 두시네 심주시하고의 작업을 되는 자는 그게 가르치바에서는 고아지 동화 되는 여러 사다 되네 언제라 소소를 하다 미다 되는 게 되네 동화 되는 여러 사시는 당을 하다 미 동화시에 되네 되네 아주 대별하게 동화디마 쉬사시 다 되네 쉬에디 가르여서네 다 감고마 수다 수맥이 다 동화 되는 시월에서 디고 쉬에디마 투자되어요.
Good evening. So we're continuing to look at the trainings which are shared with practitioners of intermediate capacity. The purpose of these trainings is to give rise to definite emergence. The attitude whereby one is definite of the need to emerge from the suffering realms of samsara. And to give rise to such an attitude, it's imperative that one comes to recognize how suffering pervades cyclic existence. And to bring this about, we looked last year at the sufferings of the lower realms, and now we've been looking at more recently at the eightfold, the threefold, the sixfold presentation of suffering, as well as then specific to realms. Last time we looked at the sufferings of the human realms and of the desire realm gods. That then brings us to the presentation on the sufferings in relation to the form and formless realm gods, the two upper realms.
아나 감고마 세리 감고메 라딜레 수기 라다 수메베 라세지 데세니리 단 아주 수기 라라 지베네 나지 삼다 당보 니바 숨바 시바스네 아네 치야요레 지고 니르마선다 삼다 당보 딜레 자가다 삼다 니바 딜레 니 야셔데 숨바 딜레 자 삼다 시바스네 수나래야 데네게 시치고레 데네 수메발아야 데네게 여와 시치야요 다도나라 데 수다 수메세 니셰 디나로 바여와시네야 수르시다 수메레시 게셰 여와체요레 데네 데네 수나로 지베나야 데데 여와 바이체요도 수감니리 주드에스네 아니 데 가서 주든지야요레 수감들라 수감라야 삼다 당보로 숨 니발로 숨 데네 죽차로와 데네 당보 니바 숨바제 숨숨제 데네 시바들라 다시 죽지 지여서 데네 지여 아직 안 된다를 죽든요네.
So where we are in the text is the bottom of page 165. So we come to look at the suffering of the gods of the uppermost realms. So the cyclic existence is usually presented in terms of three realms. So we've concluded looking at the sufferings in relation to the desire realm. So now we come to the uppermost realms. And these are the form and formless realms. So there are two divisions. Within the form realm, this is usually presented as having four divisions, so four within the form realm, and these are called four concentrations, so the first, second, third, and fourth concentration. And as one develops these various states of mind of each ascending concentration, the quality of happiness experience develops. So there's greater happiness in the second form realm than in the first, and the third has greater happiness than the second or the first, and so forth. And then when a being moves beyond the form realm, it's to the realm without form, the formless realm, and there are also four divisions. So four of each. So the upper realms are divided into two. Form realm, formless realm, each are divided into four. But in some texts, the form realm is not divided into four, but into 17. And that really is still the four divisions, but with subdivisions. And they go something like 6 in the first concentration, one or in the second, one in the third, and that would leave 12 in the fourth concentration, if I remember correctly. So, but in brief, the form realm has 4 concentrations, and the formless realm is also divided into 4.
Samdan dambole sum nibala sum dene sumbala sum jibu kucharu gore. Samdan dambo yiba sumbadele ne kucha gore. Dene gune da samdan shiballe da samdan shibadele ne ye yore, ye cha gore. Chezada di ye chi guda ye chi jubden taba cha gore.
Well, actually, on reflection, the way to come to the 17 divisions within the form realm is like the subdivisions are like this. In the first concentration there are 3, the second concentration 3, and the third concentration also 3, leaving 8 for the fourth concentration.
마시길라 니바니사 감고마 니게 하남라스 둥아요 둥아에 매장 뇨모바다 대신 디바단 제바 아니 치포와다 네라 라와 메바 네갈레니 둥아오 네갈레기니 둥아오.
So now we'll read from the text. So again at the bottom of page 165. Although gods in the 2 uppermost realms do not have the suffering of suffering, they have mental afflictions and obstructions, and they lack control over their death, their transmigration, and their next state, which is why they suffer through negative habitual tendencies.
Yo mares orda debel hala dunga di mile yo debel hala dunga yo that debel hala yo ba nashin da dunga mongbu chik da yeni ya kamgomel hala yo mares orda denigi.
We see here, although gods in the upper 2 most realms, so the form and formless realms, do not have the suffering of suffering. So this is something, the suffering of suffering, or the suffering of physical mental pain, pervades the desire realm. So not just desire realm beings in the lower realms or in the upper realms of humans, but also in the upper realms of gods, there is the suffering of physical and mental pain. So in fact, there is far more suffering in the desire realm than in the form realm or formless realm.
Dunga yo marite debel hala yo ba na yo dunga mongbu yo mare ina da kare yo resene nyomo ba yo res nyomo ba yo mare nyomo ba densin sesan Tibetan Japanese Tibetan Java deni chipo yo res shiwa yo res chipo da nela rawa meba then koronso nela rawa meba je ene ko shi chipo nela de kiti de osna rawa meba tusi zo yo ma shi ro yo de sin rawa meba deni ki nega lendi dunga de yo res de da chaba du ji dunga leda nyomo ongi achige 폼 게베게다 폼보디어레스 다디 자디 아니 델리아 아니 치와라 라와메 바 치와디 치위 동아디 용거래 에세지.
So whilst beings in the form, or gods in the form and formless realm do not suffer in the way that beings in the desire realm suffers, in that they do not suffer from physical and mental pain, they do nevertheless suffer, and this now the text continues. They suffer due to their having mental afflictions and obstructions, and they suffer due to lacking control over their death. In other words, they are still bound in cyclic existence. They still, therefore, experience the all-pervasive suffering of conditionality, and therefore they lack control over their death. Their contaminated karma and imprints will determine when their lifespan is exhausted and where their next rebirth will be. So they do not have freedom over their rebirth. Further, they suffer in further ways in terms of their transmigration, their movement from one realm to the next, and their next state. And this is all, again, I read up to that.
다 되베 녀몽 원주와 빵고 거래. 되베 녀몽. 되베 녀몽 원주와 빵고 거래. 당보다 되베 녀몽 원주와 빵고 거래. 되베 원주와 빵 원주 녀몽 원주와 빵비 빵용도 근데 삼 감고명 의신용 축세 도구 거래. 의신용 축세데 심리 기워 감고매시. 의신용 축 념죽 되네시다 민 되네시라 의신용 축세데 토베 예절. 삼다 당보 니버 숨바 시바 가와레네다 의신용지 토고 다 당보는 저기 대변 녀몽이 빵고 거래. 대변 녀몽 다 빵시는 원주와도 빵고 사번에 집어 빵고 말. 다 대변 녀몽 예매바 쇠고 거래. 니 쇠바라 신의 주고 거래. 신의 줍제 신의 톱차 당보 신의 줍. 되네 신의 줍차네. 되네 신의 줍차의 제일이야. 되네 건조게 가르 공고르스네 시라나 마치 람세 고매요 레지네. 시와다 라페나 바제세. 다 시라나 바제 람스네 간을 라고르스네 삼변에다 삼다 당보를 삼바나 당저기 당보 삼다 당보를 공부를 되는 이바 숨바되는 공부를 왔다 당보 삼다 당보 삼다वे나 진짜 당한도 되바려야 배 채통통 안지게 사야 동야다 되네게 강한 내나서 망보 요라모 강한 망보 쉬어도 되네게 강하게 되비게 강한 삼다 다 되네 되바 딜레 되바나 되발레 되바나 삼다 당보 배 맛이 강한 충충 시와 시우레샤스 누체네 시르 되네 삼단 거래 되네게 삼단에 되네게 시라나 마칭에서 되발레 시와다 가서 라바 균 여바다 델레 되게 삼단 다보디 니 배마시 시와리 선배 두치나 삼단에 띵에서 고미하신 거 디 고미들 시라나 마칭에 람라 거래 디 람고 세니바 말에 람고네 말에 시락 남바칭에 람 시와다 라페 남바찬 시위 남바찬 라페 남바찬도 되비게 되발이야 아니 녀모다 균망고 요래 선배 따와 에글로디 라페 남바찬에서 띵에지네 다 시위 남바찬스도 되바들 되게 삼단 당보들 배 마시기 시와 시우 녀모다 대강을 매봐 배 야호래서 삼다이디 시위 남바찬에서 되네게 띵에진 이 공부를 되네게 띵에진 공부를 되네 안도 지는 고면도 안 가슴 찔이야 데뷔 녀모바디 균이지 다 데뷔 녀모래 되발에 라바짱야다 쉬가리나다 닝보메 받다고라 따도 델 데뷔 균이 기고 말다 여범에게도 데뷔 취라미 배 차고 균이 기에며 차로 그래 제가 되네게 차고 기에며 기에며 차도 되네 삼된 남비기 안에 데뷔 녀모 원주와 빵비기 고파세지 투부어레지 고딩원이 봐 말이야 고대 생이 봐 말이야 고딩 저부지 데뷔 원주와 되녀 라파 원주와 빵비 고딩소래 고딩소 안되니지 고딩세 투부어레지 데니 토요도 데니 데뷔 녀몽 원주와 빵 말이야 데니 빵도 데니 삼대 남부 원신 좀 주세요 토비어래 토바래 데니 당부한 것도 데뷔 하는 주고로 와 진짜 데뷔 걸래 신의 줍딩에서 신의 줍차네 신의 길에 계사위 제라 다 시라나 맞지 남도 공부하다 마 데뷔 가사로 와대 수부여로 와대 삼된 말도 그 공간에 나보 데뷔 가사래 데뷔를 하여래 데뷔 미여래 니가 용 거래 데뷔를 하다 수익 공부를 쓴 당보 공간이 데뷔를 하다 데뷔 미디게 공부를 제사 당보 신의 톱 차르위 제라 되네 시라나 맞지 삼다 당보 삼 되바다 삼다 되발라 라파다 델라도 삼다 당보 배 약불에서 시와다 곰네 두 신의 곰에도 한 데뷔 녀모디 기네 원주와 기네 기에메신 차로요래 되네 차로도 데뷔 녀모 원주와 빵배기 고파스야 도고래세다 시라나 맞지 고파 민디다고 고파 도고래 디토요도 당한지 마서네 람람마서네 토람세야 여러와다 디나신지 다지 지딘비가 람라고 디네시 토고래 디네 삼된 의신염 주세 토바리에서 디네 톱세베 제라 디 만년바제 냠나 냠여요래 세딜래 디베트로 곰 톱내 냠여요래 디 만년바제 시소바이나 제와치만 삼다나 볼에 기고래 난지 지딘벨라 통람 동 곡된 생이버 토야요로 와 디나신 지딘베 람 세데 디니 시라나마 람라티네 코란즈게 톤람 나신지 톱티네 구시 시라나마티 람라티 고틴디 고바 라파시 토야 요레세 생이바 나신 문에 말에 저부르부지 토야 요레세.
Just to say as a translator, there will be some technical vocabulary in this segment that I don't know. So some of the terminology you may have heard translated more accurately elsewhere, but the meaning will be fine. But just some of the terminology, one or two terms, I don't know. Now to what Genla said. So in order to achieve a concentration, so let's do it this way. So the form realm has 4 concentrations. They are achieved in a particular sequence, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. That's a set sequence. In order to achieve the first concentration, this will be achieved by a desire realm being. So a being in the desire realm has the capacity to develop the first concentration of the form realm, or the first concentration. So this is done by means of developing calm abiding. And so that calm abiding is developed, and it needs to be then developed, because calm abiding itself is not a mind of the form realm. It's not a first concentration. It needs to be developed further. The way it's developed further is by this desire realm being, who has now developed calm abiding, focusing on the faults of the desire realm and the benefits of the first concentration, of the form realm. So, but specifically the first concentration. So they're looking at the faults of being a desire realm being, or having a mind of the desire realm, and they're looking at the great benefits of having the mind of the first concentration. And through this, they develop the determination to suppress the afflictions of the desire realm, so as to have the mind of the first concentration. And they're training their mind in this way, developing their concentration further, so that it is not distracted or drawn towards the afflictions of the desire realm, but rather the single-pointed concentration, the calm abiding, is being developed into the concentration, into the mind of the first concentration, into the first concentration. When that is achieved, and this is the term I don't know, they achieve something like a coarse piece of the first concentration. The coarse piece of the first concentration. When that is achieved, they have attained, it's called a cessation, but it's not an actual cessation, it's not a true cessation. So it's called a cessation, but it's not a true cessation like we know from the paths of seeing and meditation. Because this being may well not have achieved a path yet, let alone of the path of seeing or meditation. Nevertheless, now having developed the first concentration, this coarse piece of the first concentration, they have done so by attaining a cessation of the manifest desire realm afflictions. So they have, I'll repeat it, attained a cessation of the manifest. So they are non-manifest, the imprints are still there, but they will not manifest, of the desire realm afflictions, not all afflictions, the desire realm afflictions. So this marks the attainment of the first concentration. Just to make sure this is clear, their calm abiding has been developed further, it's being developed to a higher level, that now it is at the first concentration. So this meditator is in the desire realm. They have a body of the desire realm. They'll be counted amongst desire realm beings, but they've achieved the mind of the first concentration. So if we ask ourselves, where in the 3 realms is this being? desire realm, but they have the mind of the first concentration. Now, this mind of the first concentration, it can degenerate. If it does, it can be recultivated. If this being dies with the mind of the first concentration, that is where they'll be reborn. They will then be counted amongst the gods of the form realm, in particular of that first level, the first concentration. So, gods of the form realm with this mind of the first concentration. Yeah. Sama. Self-developing.
나도나 디리 베나서 되비 강사친네 당보 신이 주차지 신의 토웨나 다 신의 톱사위 jel이야 그런 게 섬다데 다 섬다 당보 세당 되벌파 심주치거로 와라 심주치다 어때 되바들이야다 지게 강한 뭐보네 나서 뭐보녀라 뭐보 강아슈도 와서 근데 델레트에 섬 당보디는 빼면서 약보래도 와서 진내 나서 되니게 강한 매디겐 사야동야다 되니게 마초다 되니게 강한 매디 배 야고래도 시와 슈시샤 선배게 섬다데 그럼 근데 섬 당보들 배 이초고다 배 야고래 디토우도 디토델이야 기고도 선배 섬다에도 되네 그런 게 괜데들 되비기 지 연대 가린다 차상을 괜찮냐 다네 대고다 괜찮냐 다 델레데 섬다 당보도 야고도 섬 부지는 딩에 좀 곰곰곰 딩에 곰 가슴질에 괜찮냐 다데 되네 되비 철람이 비게 차과세도 균이 게임에 괜찮고 되비 철람이 차과 균이 게임에 봐 차과 되샤 균이 막기봐 차로 거래 제가 되샤 균이 게임에 봐 차로 거래 진짜 사번 방요 말이 나 되샤 균이 게임에 봐 차로 거래 제가 되샤 균이 게임에 봐 차도 되비 녀모 원주어데 게임에 봐 쇠차로 와 제가 되비 원주어 빵바래서 제가 될라 다 삼든 나비 원신 좀 주세요 토바래서다 원신 좀 토바래서 안디 디톱자 원신 좀 주글래 다 삼든 나비 띵이 진의 규를 깨어다 내가 저기 님줄은 삼든 나비 띵이 진저로 와 신의 톱 되네 신의 삼든 나비 띵이 진 거기를 깨버려서다 깨어도 되비 님 원주어 마 깨면 봐 차도 삼든 나비게 띵이 진 거기를 깨운 거다 가사디길래 제가 누우신 게 되네게 깨서는 가사디 만년바지 신의 삼든 나비 깨월래 봐 요래 양 그런 게 다디 되네게 검사위 제래야 양자 그런 삼다제 다 삼든 당보다 2번을 된들 쳐봐나 되네 2번이 빼 야가래셔 삼 당보를 되는 2번이 야가래셔 삼배 삼다제 다 되네게 된들 전에 삼든 당보한테 빼 2번을 된데 빼마세 라버래셔 되네게 삼다 되네 데라 되네 삼든 2번이 시워셔 삼배 삼다고 삼든 2번을 되고 슈지게 삼든 당보들 최들이야 빼지 괜찮냐 따요도 되네 삼든 당보에 최래 차고기는 게임에가 차로 거래 니 삼든 나비기다 녀모보 원주와 빠서래 거기라 지난 두신에 빠네 그런 두신 세델이야 되바 디니고 되비 된 될이야 두신 림바치네 수메 바도 공부해요 수메기 바도 검체 타마디네 차상 수메고 차상 빠진데 녀모바 녀모망 제 빠지는 수메게 다 지양미 세리 수메네 남셰 타예 남가 타예 남시 타예 지엠이 시세세시 시열 남가 타예 남시 타예 지엠이 시세세셔다 수메 감네 토요 시세세들이 디녀모의 방투고 말다 지딘베 삼단 방투고 말 제가 디만제 차상 방주 거래 디만제 차상 방에 딩어서 되베 때라 두시는 검진 방투에 용 거래 제가 디 데네 방에 시선을 깨와 치마 가와 기월스는 다 수메게 네 토쇼들 기월 시세세들 기월에 제래 말말때 수메스다 something 시바 산다 수메리아 남가 타예 남셰 타예 지암에 시지에서다 당은 저기 직딘비기 네 토쇼드 시지에다 딜레 토메레 제산 시지 만지게 뇨모바 차상가서 되베들 띵이진 검지는 람귤에 메게 마게 바이네요 희네요 검 띵이진 검베 또네 차상 되베 디만지게 뇨모바 차상 랑 되베기 뇨몽 하기 뇨모 차상 뇨모 차상 문제 빠투고다 방포 다 시지기 뇨모데 방투고 마다 디투고 말 디람람문에 검는 마도 토야 배리다 제가
삼고성 해주지 나서 당고 나서 Tsongkhapa 데닝아서 시리죠 데닝아서 수kam당고
다 수고 맞게 맞지다 데 조금 깨모 힘모하지 당고 되버지 간사 저러 신의 줍제 되감비 뇽모 빵 얘네 나 수메게 야다 제어데 디라바 디가레 야하사 어디디 시세바도 또 항상 디곰진 디 먼저 되비던 다하랑라 차상 방투야 용거래 딩에 좀 검지
The process works like this, that a desire realm being, so again hasn't said, but it'll be a human or a god, so a desire realm being strives and achieves calm abiding. So they have single points of concentration, they have the union of physical and mental pliancy, so they've achieved actual calm abiding. They haven't, though, achieved the first concentration. To achieve the first concentration, they look at the faults of the afflictions in the desire realm and the great benefits of having a mind of the first concentration. They've recognized that achieving a first concentration, one is free from the suffering of suffering, and so forth. One is free of anger. One is free of all the desire realm afflictions. Let's re-express that so it's really precise. One isn't free of them. They are suppressed, but completely suppressed, so you will not experience them. So one looks at this desire realm being with calm abiding, one looks to the mind of the first concentration and thinks, if I achieve that, none of the problems of the afflictions of the desire realm will bother me. They'll be suppressed. And whilst there are afflictions manifest for beings with the first concentration, they experience so much more happiness than I am, that I can. And one thereby, this is the process, reflects on the great benefits of achieving the mind or the first concentration and the faults of remaining in the desire realm, or remaining with the mind of the desire realm. That is the process, and thereby one develops one's calm abiding to a higher level, and it becomes the first concentration. Then one has achieved the first concentration, is now enjoying a far more peaceful mind. So the text is often translated as bliss, but it's the word for happiness, and that's clearer. So one is achieving the happiness now of the first concentration, and one has no attachment for desire realm objects. So when one's not in meditation, one's going around one's business as a human or as a god, and there are all these desire realm objects, doesn't impress you at all. Doesn't draw you at all. So this is now the achievement of the first concentration. To be clear, no desire realm afflictions will manifest. They've all been suppressed. But the seeds remain. Now, with this mind of the first concentration, the being in the desire realm, with his body of the desire realm, will think about the great benefits of developing their concentration further into the second level, the second of the four concentrations of the form realm. And then thereby, they repeat the process. Whilst they are enjoying the peace of the first concentration, they look at the second concentration and see how attainable it is for them and how much more peaceful it is. So they yearn to develop the mind of the second concentration by looking at its benefits and the faults of the first concentration. And with that motivation, or with that in mind, they strive and develop their concentration further, going and attain then the second concentration. Now they've achieved the happiness of the being of the second concentration, or of the mind of the second concentration, and their afflictions are again far more less disturbing. And this process continues. So the process of looking at the realm above, or the level of concentration above, as being, that's what I want to achieve. It's so much, the happiness is so much better than this coarser level than I've achieved now. The practitioner develops their concentration, starting from the desire realm to the first concentration, to the second, to the third, to the fourth concentration. When they've achieved the fourth of the four concentrations in the form realm, the process continues. They're now looking at the formless realm, and they see how wonderful it would be to achieve the mind of the formless realm, as opposed to this coarser level of the fourth concentration of the form realm. And they continue that process to achieving the first, I think they're called absorptions. The first absorption of the formless realm, the second absorption, the third absorption. And eventually, through this process, this ordinary samsaric being will achieve the fourth absorption of the formless realm. This is called the peak of cyclic existence. Again, I mentioned the other names. I don't know them. I only know this one. This one's called the peak of cyclic existence. And this is as far as a sentient being can go. So they've achieved the peak of cyclic existence, which is the fourth absorption of the formless realm. And again, this process to go from calm abiding to the first concentration, and from the first concentration to the second, right the way up to the peak of cyclic existence, the fourth absorption of the formless realm, is the same. One looks at the benefits, the mental benefits or the great benefits of the higher level, and the faults of where you are. And by that, you develop your concentration further. And you may well still be in this body of a desire realm being, and be classed as a desire realm being, but your mind is somewhat more developed.
다시 다 뒤에 뛴들 다랑 도시는 곰제 단 수맥이 반에 삼로 토쇼디 뭐시디 삼로 셈디 기투 거래제로 디 통고로 하다 제 돈달라 먼저 뒤에 뛸래야 뒤에 이마 가사제 뒤에 뛸라다 띵이 조금 삼다 당부에게 람셈 삼로 셰베디 규레게 되네요. 곰 삼대 니바데는 숨바지네 아시 림바지 지야메 남가데 시지게 봐도 자산 숨규리 기투고래서 되지다 디셰서와 다 릭직데 딜레 야직디네 용래 다 되베된 딜레야 삼대 되발라 라바다 삼대 남볼에 시와다 또 곰제 띵이 곰된 되베 뇨모 라봉은주와 빵차네 되네 바시 은 삼대 남볼 파기와래 다 사원 삼대 남볼에 기와래 차네 되네 호라 삼대 남보에 띵데로 오다 삼 남볼에 니발이 야가도 스미 되네 시와다 도시 리바 좀 되네 기와링게 야 시제바도 줘야지 용거래
So achieving calm abiding and developing it, achieving calm abiding as a desire realm being and developing it into the first concentration, assuming, and maybe further to the second, to the third, and so forth. When death comes, whichever of those minds one has, in other words, it hasn't degenerated, that will determine the realm you're born into. So if you die, let's say, as a desire realm being, when death comes, you've achieved, let's say, the second concentration, then you'll be born in the form realm with the mind of the second concentration. Once a being is born in the form realm, then the form or formless realm, wherever they are born, they can develop their concentration further or develop their concentration further and progress through the realms from that life as a form, say a form realm god. Let's say they're born as a form realm god with the mind of the second concentration. They can there, in the same through the same process, develop the mind of the third concentration, the fourth concentration, and the formless realm minds, and so forth.
둥아시 메레 가서는 칼라사 모장 데니기 토네 조도비 둥아요 말에 캬비 둥아요 말에 데니기 안지게 예제기 말에 둥아요 말에 데니기 둥아메서 둥아요 둥아 메바레 제사다 삼단 당보라 가르선 캬바 뒤지 둥아요 바제 데니야 sul da gari yorasne dewa yore se dewa yore so da di dewa di go yorasne samden dambo ni ba sumba dile dewa yore se samden shiba le de dewa yoma so le so tang yum jan yare se samden shiba le de so tang yum sume le so tang yum jan yare ma so dewa yoma le zada da dewa yore di samden nganzu dewa la dewa yore dewa dunga ni ga yore 다 되네 삼단 당보다 삼단 당보다 니버 숨바 세디기라 대화요 말에 아니 초와 땅님래 초와 동의 동화도 말에 매말에 초와 동의 매말에 다 초와 대화요래 초와 땅님 니가 요래 다 삼단 시발에도 초와 땅님 자자래 초와 대화요 말 초와 동화요 말에 제래 되네 삼단 수메라 초와 동화 마도 가사 땅님 마도 요 말가요 말에 저래 다 삼단 시발이야 초와 땅님 마도 요 말에
Dürkan teken kom samten dampo tukso. Dampo ni pakalina tukla. Jadi kom dürkan pa yidu.
제일 걸 다디 요 말. 매제다. 매인이래. 칼라데 사고 이르데 칼라 사고 이 말고 띵에서 줍사로 하지. 고 이 말에 혼자. 제가 디술이야. 나데 말 다디디 다시에 디데 가사 되베 가면서 말다데 수감나시 월다 닝시에데 수감 삼다 당보니바 삼다 당보니바 숨바 가사 사지 요로 수감 말라 데술라 소와 대와 요레스 당유며 니 이가 요레스 다 삼다 시베 가사다 수메 가면서 가사 혼돌이야 소와 뒤에 소와 당유며 아니야레 에서다
So being born in the form realm, they will experience no suffering of suffering. So they won't, for example, they won't experience the sufferings of heat and cold. They have no need to eat and so forth. So they do still experience suffering throughout the form and formless realm in the sense of the all-pervasive suffering of conditionality and the other things mentioned here. But in terms of their feelings, the beings who have achieved the first, the second, and third concentration all experience a feeling of happiness. Feelings of suffering, feelings of happiness, and neutral feelings. So beings in the first three concentrations experience feelings of happiness, but a being in the fourth, with the mind of the fourth concentration, will only experience neutral feelings, so not even happy feelings.
안다디 예수의 대당 내가 원비기 쉬운 알아 숨고를 뭐 봤으나 만에 제라마 도대 바다 셈자 바다 대수기 쉬운 알에 숨고를 다디 원비기 쉬운 알아 뭐 봤어요.
So what's described here is as presented in the non-Madhyamaka schools.
아디네 자다딘마 셴야하사다 담지错了해서 담이 错也담례해서 루에 셴야 错也담례 해서 가시 수견 수매 바 안에 동을 레대신 띵진 대외 단위전 가와요와 매버네 대야 신도 녜죄민 대레 라야 동어교 안드 동카 발롱레 대바 따버 중규라 매장 제대로 링민에 칼라 디위 자다 총 지비에 덮게 다방들 데네 롱외 타진인 말메 링도 바와다 계지레레 지바다 두제 용소 두제 용교를 셰바이 동아다기 냐버지 셰소사
Moving on, so we have a quotation from Discourse on the Collections. And unfortunately, a few changes in the translation, but again, we'll go through it line by line, I'm sure. So, one in the form or formless realms, having transcended the suffering of suffering, a master of the bliss of concentration who stays immovable for eons. Yet, this most certainly is not liberation. He will still fall from there again, through the whirlpool of suffering in the lower realms, although the whirlpool of suffering in the lower realms seems to have been transcended, he won't last long there even with effort. Like a bird in flight up high, like an arrow shot with the strength of a child, he ends up falling. Like butter lamps that blaze for long, while actually perishing moment by moment, he's completely obsessed by the suffering called compositional, thoroughly changing.
And not this worry, Ganshi Sudan, Sukjin Sume Ba, Sidu, Kansukan be Gasalada, Sume Belat Tikila, and then Dunga Lady Shens, Dunga Yomares, the Mungu upon Savares, as Singing to that issue.
The first two lines, one in the formal formless realm, so a God in the form and formless realm, has transcended the suffering of suffering. So this has been presented previously already, or in the preceding paragraph.
And then again, that things in David, Daniel, Gao, you are never near. That you can do Shindy troop, that in the things in the nature, Gao, you are never said. 才人不修，这搞蒙不的那个都那个嘞起来，这定义性，头定义性，把年把下去了，或者不，嘛是的那个刚刚没吧，那这个搞药啊没吧，是的搞蒙不的那个，但那个嘞是。
The third and fourth lines, a master of the bliss of concentration. So could express this as the embodiment, so someone who embodies the bliss or happiness of concentration, who stays immovable for eons. So it refers to this being, so this God in the form or formless realm, who's enjoying the happiness that comes with concentration, stays immovable for eons, which means their concentration is unwavering for eons. And that also relates to their lifespan, which is immense, for beings born in these form and formless realms.
And then Shindu Major mean Lendela Laria Tumar Curose. Just not Denigi Yomobong, Chipcoron to get Denigi, Rarangi Yomobong, Undu Maguach, Kawa Yome Bashu, Chinigorte, in now Koale, Major means no Koale Tarioma, so that the Denigi Dunga Yomo, but Korea Dunga Yom, Korea Dunga Snadating. The Yawa and so that the Nigi mean Nashi Dunga Yomo, what in the year the Inea, Shindu Major means never call it draw mares, call it Tario mares. The Jezan Mataranza, Dele Laria Tumor Curus, that the Yanja and my sheets in Nasol Matia Mirikiwa down, and it Yawa the Ida Dundra Kiwa Yunguris.
Fifth and sixth lines. Yet this most certainly is not liberation. So this is important because this being who is abiding for an immense period of time, experiencing great happiness, has not achieved the lasting happiness of liberation. He will still fall from there again. So death will come, and their next rebirth, it's not a matter of choice. Just like for ourselves, their next rebirth will be propelled by their contaminated karma and afflictions. And their next rebirth is likely to not be in as pleasant a state. Their time of experiencing this great happiness of living in concentration for eons will end. And rebirth, perhaps as a human, otherwise in one of the lower realms, will follow.
Deva tabu jungyurla bejan chidar ringmini ase. Tapene denig ngandru dunga pang balon ve les. Deva tabu jungyurla bejan chidar ringmini ase. Chizada ngandru dunga se de ngandru balon se de ngandru pe chulo jabi chu shiwu chile de yorwa dina shin da ngandru dunga ji nyawa ida dundru ge dunga digi denig balon na shin. Dele Deva Tavores, Pawa Nashi Res, that had to Sukan Belata, Sumega Latigelia, the Nigi Mandu Dumadi, Pawa Tavores, my Payomar, Tavors, Pawa Nashi causing Yomares, Yungo Mar, Inayam, Peg and Jitter Rimines, the Nigi Nadu Duma Meva Chakora, Tingizilla, near Chekati, Unibu Teonaya, Nimicilla, and the Nimicico Ma. Rameba and my chicken dele dress and dunga yoya maneva chagres, Nadu dunga yongo chagres, Jiderinka, ring mini essay on the tisor.
The next 3 lines. So I think I've changed the order to match the Tibetan of from what's in your book. Though the whirlpool of suffering in the lower realms seems to have been transcended, he won't last long there even with effort. So the first line here then, though the whirlpool of suffering in the lower realms seems to have been transcended. So this God, abiding in happiness for so long, it may well appear that this is their new reality. This is how they will be forever. But the karmic strength that led, or the strength of the karma that led to this rebirth will come to an end. And across the length of an individual being's samsaric existence, even though that rebirth has been for eons, it is, when compared to the length of a being's samsaric existence, we can say that it isn't long. And then death will come, and rebirth back into the immense misery and pain of the lower realms will follow.
Yazanda yale pecha was a color niwe jatan sung si da benanganzuki jadi bene danho sagalia namle purjin ba taring unibuchdu gaze purdevene ta mata tamala koi sagal ba gochigiri yes jesa color niwe jatan sung si bere.
Then illustrations are given, like a bird in flight up high. So here we think of, perhaps we see eagles, or not around here, but vultures elsewhere. We see how long they can soar high in the sky. So whilst watching them, it may seem like an eternity, an age, that they are high in the sky, but eventually they have to come down. So likewise with the beings born in the form and formless realms.
당은 저기 이게 다루시 도 다저와 다지 바유 미슈 첨부 되는지 다지 방외는 발갑지게 배 균능 뭐 지고질 살마도지 남는 바로지 타말이야 걸 니버지 좋아하시는 마 타말라 마사가라 바기레스.
The next 2 lines, like an arrow shot with the strength of a child, he also ends up falling. So if you think of an arrow shot by someone who's strong, so an adult, it will go a great distance. If shot by a child, it certainly will not. But as it leaves the bow and ascends, kind of looks the same, but it will fall. Either way, it will fall. Whether it's shot by an adult or by a child, this arrow will fall. So too the gods.
마음에 링도 바로와다 기지를 지바 따라서다 제사당은 최미를 빠셔나 당보 빠지 최고 첨부는 빠서 님이 숨쉬 때내게 다 말두어서 타말라 기지 코드마 조조에게 조주고 조는 타말이야 아니 말 좋아하신 메디시도도 와서.
Further illustration, like butter lamps that blaze for long, while actually perishing moment by moment. Again, we light a lamp. It seems to last for hours. Sometimes they even seem to last for days. But in reality, then it's not even lasting a moment. The lamp and its flame is changing moment by moment.
근데 뒤에 용서 뒤에 용교 쉐바이 동화되게 제발 녀버 제세다 제사다 감고모 수단 소미게 하디게 배 까워 먹고 균능고 슈 전에 되니게 강아마 징아송의 동화 만용어지 되니게 빵만하시 균능고 되고 할때 뒤지 동화 여반사들 레다 녀모의 깨와 렘바레 제사 레다 녀모의 깨와면 렘바디 파 라메바 치시는 이미지 안에 가서 마je시는 동화 녀위 동화 다기 녀버 제시 동화 파 녀시는 강아 동화 용어를 해서.
The final 2 lines, he is completely oppressed by the suffering called compositional thoroughly changing. Despite having abided for eons in the great happiness of the higher realms, and in this period, they haven't experienced coarse suffering at all. But because this rebirth was taken due to contaminated karma and afflictions, this process will repeat itself. It will continue. Death will follow, and rebirth will be propelled under the power of contaminated karma. The being is not free and will continue to suffer.
Sudan Sumelia Dingis come Sudan Sumela Keva Inaya, that Negap ring and the Chige led on your Gasode Dungaji, the answer Dunganyomo Tower, Dingis in Nikomje do Senegang Nevache, do you had it, you would hear your day in a Tagangele, Korea Dungale Tario Banyo Marwas, Korea Dungala Baba Inza, call Tario Matavazan Imichik, Ramia by Shizine, and Dungai Mane, Yongo Chagri, Essage. The
general meaning of what's presented here is that due to the power of concentration, a being takes rebirth in the form and formless realms and abides there, enjoying this great happiness of concentration, free from the sufferings of the lower realms and the sufferings of the desire realm in its entirety. But they are not yet free from samsara, and in fact, they will end up taking rebirth in the desire realm.
Sudan Sumeri Kies and Injimiji that Dinigi, that is Dunga Jingason giving ever your mother. Carson Sudan Sumeli Dine Lam Yamniche, Lamwini Comje, and the Lam Yamniche, Dinigi Yumoba, Sabon Chiva Pongba Yungo, Tajumitivo Toba Yungore, she said Dinigi Yumoba, some the Suda Sumiba Kaza Tiki, or the Lam Yamlinche, Dine, and the Tajumitivo Tosona, that Yajik. Ma and the Koali Kiwali Jingaso doing Yungo Marwa. That Gazile Sudan Sumela Gene, the Nigi Chiki, Seringbo, Dingins in the Deva, Dingins in Yambasha, to come there, Yoba Inayang, Lam Yamle Majeba Ina, Koali Drivi, Lam Yamle Majeba Ina, then in Yimiji in a Mangas on Kiwachi, yes, there's that Lamnian Tarbotoba Ina, the young Marias would.
One is born in the form and formless realms, or maybe guess better like this, a being abiding in the form and formless realms. There is no certainty that they will attain freedom from suffering. It all depends on whether they have cultivated a path or not. If one attains a rebirth with this great happiness that abides for such a long period of time, but if one has not abandoned the afflictions together with their seeds, whilst for this lengthy period of time the suffering one experiences is slight, this process, this inevitable process, is merely delayed. Death will come, and the sufferings of realms lower to where you are will continue. So if a path hasn't been cultivated, one is not heading towards freedom. One may be experiencing relative comfort compared to the vast majority of beings in cyclic existence, but one isn't free. One is still going to have to suffer again like this. The only way to gain freedom is to cultivate a path, cultivating it ever further until one abandons the afflictions together with their seeds.
Sering was sure is order. Bene and the Debigi, Sumja Sasumgi, Ladigi, Dusit, Shogu Chuzi, Kamachi to Sicilia, Manzuki, Missy, me, Sesena, long object series. Manzu, long object said the Loconzu, Sumja Sasum, Lai, Dusit, Kamachi to Sicilia, Kamachi to Sicilia, and the Milong object, say your tongue, the Niki Sering Bures or the Ladigi. Tanganzuki. Milong up Jenny, Consukarmachi Madrugo, Marva, the Chuzichilagama Rustamati, Kazeo, Rwada, Nabjishaba Shagur. Just not the bear, Debil had to get Sering Bush, Sering Bush. Just not Sering Bush. Then Debil had attended in Dile, Sukam had to get Sering Achagore. Dele Dene, the Sumingal had to get Sering Achagore. Just a bear, Sering Bush, Chagore.
long life is attainable in the desire realm. But some gods in the desire realm live an incredible span of life, such as those born into the heaven of the 33. There, a single minute of that god's life is equivalent to 500 human years, and they live an incredibly long life of God years. And if each minute of those God years is equivalent to 500 years of human life, we can imagine just how long that lifespan of a god born in the desire realm, heaven of the 33. Longer than that is a being born in the form realm, a god of the form realm, and gods of the formless realm have even longer lifespans than that.
난 수수멜이야 람냠는 지게 요래 초람 람곰 초람줄에 끼와 요 졸람줄에 끼와 용고래 수수래 수메다 가자라 람냠는 제와 요래 람냠는 제데 초람나 졸람 끼와 요래서 그래 이내 통람기 두고 말래라고 거주 이제 통람기를 민지 람사 다 수수멜이 끼네 초람바다 졸람버럽시네 다 통람기 두면서 양제 거기 마 되벌 마 끼와 랭고래스 되벌 마 끼와 랭제되네 Debe Hara Kiwale Mena, Debe Mili Kiwale Malengine, then Tonam Togo, Tonam Sardo Tovieti, then Kamgom Suda Sumi de la Tonam Sarki to Mares, Injimiji Debetele, Makiwalengo, or Solam Kiayore, Solam Kiwas, Jolambardu Yares. That Tonam Kimadu, Tonam Kiedi, Ma that Debal Makiwale, then Debetele Tonam Kisar. Then the top Sanea. Gomlam said, "Young Kusumel Yakiwal, Gomlam Comtajumiri."
So even wherever one is born, as long as one hasn't gained freedom from the causes of cyclic existence, whatever pleasure one experiences will not last long. But all that being said, there are practitioners who develop from the desire realm, minds of the form and formless realm, and develop paths as within the desire realm, and then take rebirth in the form realm with a mental path. And so they can be reborn in the form or formless realm with a path in their continuum, and they can develop that path further. What they cannot do, though, as a god of the form and formless realm with a path, is realize emptiness directly. So they cannot newly realize emptiness directly. So if rebirth is taken in the form and formless realm by a practitioner who has achieved a path, the path of accumulation or preparation, they can continue to develop their qualities, but they cannot gain a direct realization of emptiness. For that, they will need to be reborn in the desire realm so that they can realize emptiness newly and take rebirth again, again in the form or formless realm, and then continue along the path of meditation in the form or formless realm. But so in brief, whilst beings in the form and formless realm can have a path and can develop that path further, they cannot gain the initial direct realization of emptiness in the form or formless realm. That has to be done in the desire realm.
That Tolam came out of a career. Tolam gave a lepid, Mejum shook some shoes go with Sarah. Mejum, Chesan come goma, Sudan to make it in the Liaganga disease Yomar, Chesan the Koala Geshe Thubten Rabten, shook somebody to Yomar, Koala, Nimbo Minister, somebody, the Niki, Devana Sindi to Yomar, Devaliada, Ganga Mongo, Yavazata Koa, the Nimbo Minister, somebody shook some Julie to Wallage. There's a call a Geshe Chedi, Devali to her. Jezada Tolam Gelia, call a Geshe Chimbo huge Kugore, Denizada, Tolam Gegi, Tin the Ashota, Debit Telemato, Susume Delegate Humanes, Person Susume Delia call a Devana, call a Geshe Chimbo Yomar, Garson Horzola, Tizi Ganga Yomara, Ganga Gazimen and Mehandelia, Geshe Chuma the Mayor.
The reason why practitioners in the form and formless realm cannot newly realize emptiness directly is because to do so, one has to have very strong definite emergence. And that definite emergence cannot really be developed so strongly in the form and formless realm because there is so little manifest suffering that is experienced, or the suffering that is manifest is so slight that to recognize that there is no abiding value anywhere in samsara cannot be done to a deep level. That can, though, be done in the desire realm.
dele shiwa de da dunga de ba kunji de pamba tarba de shiwa ta tarba de da nyomo pangba de da shiwa res di yuen de tong di don do yer de le da nyomo be le da nyomo ba de le yuen ta de ni ge hwa le yuen ta ji ko ye yu ne le da nyomo ba le yuen ta je di le yuen ta de le pa yuen jang ya da le de ne de le tarba de le ta jin da tarba se tobu da shiwa di res tarba topna nyomo ba pa se sa ba na ji ba shiwa me ba cha shiwa de ne ka ki ne me se sa da shiwa tarba tobu du san bi shiwa de ne ki lo se sa di 저기 디 돈돈 열심히 남좀 지고로 와. 제사다 한주기 남원에 냠는 제게 남냠는 바들라 냠들라 네 가서리 대신 나바전 있 대신 나바전 남세월 대시다 제디 시라 나바전 남세 대바라 라바다 델라 되게 섬다 담보를 시왔다 와자 시라 나바전 남세 디시월다 시라 나바전 대신 나바전 남세 캠핑으로 다다로지.
So earlier this evening I mentioned how one develops first as a desire realm being, a calm abiding, and one then develops that further to achieve the first concentration and the method by which one goes from the first concentration to the second concentration. And as a translator, I wasn't sure on this term, but it's something like, I don't know, the path of course peace, so course peaceful path, something like that. And so this is done by looking at the benefits of the the state above you and the fault of where you currently are. So if you are a desire realm, have a mind of the desire realm, you see the great happiness of a being with the mind of the first concentration and the faults of the desire realm, and give rise to a yearning and thereby the determined attitude to develop that concentration of the first concentration. And that method is repeated as one develops the concentrations and later the absorptions. So that is one method, but that is not necessarily the method of someone who's striving for liberation will follow. So someone who's striving for liberation is more likely to develop calm abiding already with a wish of wanting to gain liberation from samsara. They would have come to give rise to the determined attitude to give rise to calm abiding by seeing the faults of true sufferings and true origins, and thereby given rise to the determined attitude for liberation. That will lead them to develop concentration and develop their concentration ever further. So this then has a different name again, I don't know how it's translated, but it's something like the peace of the four truths, something like that. The four truths as in four noble truths. The peace of the four noble truths, something like that. So the meaning is Four Noble Truths, but that's not the title. It's just truths. So the peace of truth, maybe you could say something like this. And so you develop, that is the method by which one will develop from calm abiding to the first concentration onwards, developing one's concentration further. But the motivation is very different here. One isn't aspiring for greater happiness. one is the greater happiness of the next level of concentration or absorption, but one is developing one's power of one's concentration so that one can abandon the origins of suffering and gain freedom from samsara.
Andine that those in the shumor. The Jezadang and Juge Lam Gula Javal in Jimmy Haji that ya Diki or that come go make it that motion you said same you to do in your more when you are bumping that motion you said you're on the top of water on the Lam Gula Javala Lam Denigi top knitting is in top knitting is in Jig Lam Yung or water that the top of water is. Then you get that Delia Jig. Jimangura share the Gatidonala, and you Lam Jule Javala, and you Lam Jule Javala, she near to Horta. She near to Mena, she near to Mena, Lam Jule Jay married, solemn Jay Jule Jay married that. Bendigo and Raja that Changism said Jule Jay married. Just that Changism Jule Javala, then was she near to Hore, that solemn Jule Javala, then was she near to Hore. She near to Basamaze that the Manzu. Devi Nyumong Munjua the Munjua Pamba Bungo water, the Munjua the bad, wishing him to water, the Munjua the Bungo water. Munjua the Bungo, Munjua Bungo water. Oh, they jibber, they did jibber chagore.
Then it's all
now what did senior troop? Then just something wishing you to Tovala, did that what did she some tango marwa? Did she not change some diet?
So the advice for practitioners such as ourselves who have an aspiration for liberation, for enlightenment, but are still away from achieving a path, we have to achieve calm abiding. Without calm abiding, a path cannot be cultivated. With calm abiding, a path can be cultivated. But to be clear, calm abiding.
David come go make wishing him to talk away, intimate talk away, your mother, top night to go there, Pando, top night, Kashi top away, top near Lamrim in Jayore, Kashi Mato, that Kansile, intimate she near to talk water, she near to water.
So we have to achieve calm abiding in order to achieve a path. This is indispensable. A path cannot be achieved without calm abiding. Because the quality of meditation to actually give rise to this mental path just isn't there. The mind is too weak. So the practitioner then, such as ourselves, this is advice for practitioners like ourselves, will strive to develop calm abiding in order to develop a path. And one will then train in the way that one is presented. When calm abiding is achieved, then one has a choice. One can either continue to train in the second way presented by thinking on true sufferings and true origins in order to progress towards liberation, or if one chooses, one can develop the mind of the first concentration by looking at the faults of cyclic of the faults of the desire realm and the benefits of a mind of the first concentration, so that one is no longer disturbed by the desirable objects of the desire realm that surround you. But that is optional, it's not essential. In this presentation for us of an aspiration to gain freedom from suffering, what is a prerequisite to develop a path, a prerequisite for liberation are the paths. To develop a path, calm abiding must be achieved. Whether one then achieves calm abiding and develops it into a concentration, that is optional.
Dina dida dinigi tomato se kishi yomadina sudan sumeshi that China that's Lolia Charity Horror Chiyong something that Susia de Gaza didn't Lagore, Diniki, Yomo Bansa and Dilico, Sumes Denis Lagore said that Lolia Chayaki Chavaju Murwa Dines and Tishurim. They did not that they showed her that.
The context that we are in is the suffering of the higher realms. I've expanded that quite a bit and spoken about how one achieves them and some of the features of the higher realms for interest. But the context here really is to not be deceived, to think that there is a happiness there that is worthy of striving for. Even the happiness of these higher states is still bound in samsara, and therefore suffering continues.
The shepherd number shepherd mother you made. The Jigli Pazo, Toya, and Geshe, Chushe, Chunia, say Unimede. The Sumi, but Lam Yamlin, the Yama, Deva, the Disulia, Yamlin, Yamlin, Dinigi, Ya, Comier Mato, Comdia Mato, Chutea, and Yamlin, Kameda, Chutea, Chushe, Kayomar. She's a Sumi Bala, Sangi Yungubarilla, Changisemba Yomarilla. 这些把商业的也确实现在节赛去送上去把它批给嘛都，你呢去送上他你那个没那批嘛的是，现在的现在节比个设计嘛的是，现在苏美不讲念的了，现在节个确实是没了，所以可能是你嘛搞的特别的大个了嘛都，你嘞我们的嘛都，现在啥不今年节推的去等节还没的。
As it's been presented, as one progresses through the concentrations and the absorptions, there's a development in the mind. But there is also one other very obvious difference, in that when the beings in the formless realm have no form, whereas those in the form realm, of course, have bodies, so they have form. But this has an important consequence. In the formless realm, you'll find no Buddhas or Bodhisattvas. Why? Cannot teach. The Buddhas cannot teach, the Bodhisattvas cannot teach. The Bodhisattvas cannot hear teachings. They cannot read texts. They have no body. They have no form. So they cannot hear and speak. And all that one can do in the formless realm is meditate, is abide in concentration. So Bodhisattvas and Buddhas are not to be found in the formless realms.
And now, the Nangway Song do Jeza didn't Suda Sumela in a setting book, Nasuma Dunga Yomo, Deva, Dunga Yomo, but Ding is a lady, Lokawa Motia Yorate, in a diso hang sayas Kaima is order. Suda Sumela Java ina, so Dunga let Harchine, and a chick lot don't out Chita Mumbo. Kawan Kawa Dusin, Dugores, Duanyomo, Dugor, Dina, Hansaya Maris, call Joyo Maris, Yimichi Shizan Yaduanyomo Chigis, Sezan call Joyo Maris, Sezan Hansaya Maris, Sezan Jimmy Azuda, call Joytini, Dewadi to Wores, call Joy to Bachiore, call you Bombay Numo by the Ponto Bachiores, Mato, Mapamaje, Lomang Viria, Diniki, Chick Nasunga Duanyomo, Deva in Yam, Yimichi Yaya, Mambo. The
purpose of this presentation is for us to be very clear that striving for happiness that is still bound in samsara is not what our goal should be. Because even when one achieves incredible happiness of eons of peace, it is really nothing special, because death will still follow and one will continue one cycle in samsara. All it will have been is a long break, but it's not that final break of freedom.
Dunga Taza Dario Maris, Dunga Dunga the Kitawa Mato, Chawa Dunga the Dario Maris, is that the name Nimagic, Duce solo di Anshi ya Yadunga Yonga, Yevi Dunga, Nasu Dunga Yonga, Chagris, Sidiniza, and Dangandu, and then Yimbola, Garsungasne, Haliki, Miliki, Naso Suma Kevane, Dunga Bottom Yonga Reshas, Di Mazan Miliki, Dunga Dene Jeduas, Dene, that Dene, Devi Haliki, Dunga Dene Yonga to us. That Dene and Dile Tarzania, Sulu Kevanea, Sume Kevanea, the Nigdunga, and Dene. Dingy Deva Toyo Dunga Tario Mares, Cesar Dineza, the Gandu Kevana eating Jio Mares, Cesada, Kuyu Dunga Tata the Dredge, Tarba Toba Jewori, as only this one. Cesar Tarba Dunyi, Luki Yagindu, that Kuyu Dunga, Nususumela Naga in the New York SH.
Even these beings in the two uppermost realms, who are experiencing great mental peace of mind for eons of time, are not free of suffering. Why? Because the causes abide on their continuum. They, whilst abiding in happiness for eons, they are abiding together with the seeds of suffering. Therefore, when their lifespan is exhausted, rebirth will be taken, and manifest as suffering will continue. Whilst there, they will experience the all-pervasive suffering of conditionality, and their lifespan is moment by moment drawing to an end. And when rebirth follows, they will take rebirth in a realm such as our own, where they will suffer. All beings in the desire realm suffer through physical mental pain, transient happiness, as well as all-pervasive suffering of conditionality. So these beings abiding in the great happiness of the uppermost realms have that before them. They have not gained their freedom. Whereas for ourselves here, as the desire realm being, whilst like the desire realm gods, there is the experience of all three types of suffering, we have, as humans, the very best of opportunities to change our way of thinking, to gain freedom, to develop definite emergence and all the qualities of the path. Then thank you. We can conclude there for tonight, but if you have questions, feel free to ask. Otherwise, there's tomorrow too. Yes, Venerable Sepal, and then, yeah.
I understand why you need a level of single point concentration to achieve the Mahayana path of accumulation, but why would you need actual calm abiding?
Why would you need calm abiding to achieve the Theravadan part of accumulation? Is it that?
No, the path of accumulation.
The Mahayana part of accumulation.
I've not heard that before.
Okay.
I know you need it for the path of preparation.
Okay.
But why do you need it to develop bodhicitta?
Okay.
Well, of course you need some concentration.
Questions. Repeat the question. So why do you need calm abiding to achieve the path of accumulation? To attain the path of accumulation, whether Theravada or Mahayana, one needs uncontrived definite emergence. For definite emergence to be uncontrived, one needs deep habituation to it, familiarization to it. For that, one needs calm abiding. In that, through being able to abide single-pointedly on the determined attitude to gain freedom from samsara and achieve liberation. This is by abiding there single-pointedly, one will develop the habituation required for the mind of definite emergence to become uncontrived. So it's for that reason that one needs a calm abiding in order to achieve the path of accumulation.
Yeah, I was just wondering where these beings actually exist in their locality. Are they existing like in this universe around us in a different frequency? Like where do they actually exist?
Sure. Yeah, so where is the abode of the form and formless realms?
Yes.
Yeah.
Dadi sudan sume kamsidi nganzu dadi mida tuba sedi sajikale ne tuyenski shigorwada. Dadi koranzugi denige saga ne ma de mogoba koranjik yore sigorda deneji. Gawaresne dadi diwa yore se sheskayamba koranzine ji yore se mad. Dadi ngazi nganzu gawar yore se shidi nganzugi sacho dile dile yore se kishe di shesho mada koranji.
So beings in the desire realm, or humans in the desire realm, who achieve a mind of the form or formless realm will be amongst us. Hence, of course, they'll be human beings, but they will have this level of concentration. But when death comes and they take rebirth in the corresponding form or formless realm, where that is isn't stipulated. So it isn't said at all. So therefore, one can come up with a theory, but it hasn't been taught by the Buddha.
I had another question.
Sure.
You mentioned that the formless beings don't have bodies, therefore the bodhisattvas and the Buddhas can't actually help them on the path at that point. Is it that they are remembering the past teachings that they've had through imprints? Or how is it that they're now meditating without guidance and teachers?
Yeah, so beings born in the formless realm, how do they, without guidance and teachers, how are they meditating on, how they're meditating? Is it based on memory of what they remember from before?
Did think or the thing is in top of me only. The thing is in temple or she top side the name. Nyomo Barshava Chasan Bansarva. Cesada Consuniema, Niema Changrua, the Niemang to Tibetan, Chu, Benedict, Namja Lady, Namja Dame, but Namja Chasan Dushin, Jansarva, Johnson, Yeniki do that, the Niki Changu, the Corso, things in the Comje, Comgo, Comdi. They did it to Yamlin, Lambuli can't get me, our Jingorva.
So, yes, based on memory. So they will have achieved a path then. So we're talking in the context of Buddhists. They will have achieved a path. They'll be in the formless realm. And their afflictions will be greatly suppressed. And therefore, they will easily remember what has been studied before. And that will be their basis for ongoing meditation.
Okay.
Then there'll be time tomorrow for further questions. Thank you.